we're headed to work today. We're gonna put in a little bit of tile on that farm today, so I'll show you the trencher and the GPS unit, how we use it. So try to get that stuff done today. Gotta go back over and start getting some stuff ready for this colder weather that we're already having, which is down in the teens, I think, next week overnight. Some nights or some days, you know, barely even getting into, you know, to 40. So it's definitely changing, definitely. Well into fall, it seems like, with the temperatures. Most of the crops are out. There's still a few fields here and there that there's some mainly corn, but there are a few fields of beans yet, soybeans. So imagine they'll probably be getting them out here before too long, I would think. Kind of hard to combine beans in the snow anyway. I did bring my helper again today. She had to babysit my daughter's dog yesterday. My son had his wisdom teeth pulled, so she took him out there to the city to have that done. So she left her dog at our house, so she's got to stay in the kennel, and she's left alone, otherwise she destroys things. So I left the babysitter to babysit her. Looks like they're getting ready to pull anhydrous on over there. Finally, like I say, just getting not really dry on top, but it's better than it's been anyway. So try to get some stuff done before the ground freezes too hard. Got a lot of stuff to get done, but we'll see if it gets done this fall or next spring. So need to get some cow stuff finished up too. Have the vet come over and run the cows through. The calves that we need to wean, get them taken care of and get them moved into a separate lot. Gonna have to work on the bullpen, I guess. One of our bulls got out. One of our cows must not have got bred and was in heat, and he thought he needed to be over there. So until we get the fence fixed, I don't really see the point in moving him back. We've been trying to upgrade some of the fence on there to continuous fence, and lot in there. It's got a pig that we're gonna butcher when we get it fed out, and he went through that, bent the combination the cattle panels over, and then jumped the short hog gate that we had set up. So we will have to redo that differently. So probably with continuous fencing. So well, we made it. Go down here and start the trencher and let it warm up. Get back with you guys. this up and let it warm up. Here's our GPS unit. It's a Trimble. We've been running this for a few years. We get everything fired up. The guy that I work with on, in this operation, he usually runs the backhoe, does the other odds and ends stuff. I usually run the trencher. Bear with me, it takes a little bit. I've set up the GPS unit here. And on this unit, FMX, we're gonna open a field. Got it on the Hydromax right now. Set up on this field. We have no GPS satellite signal, so we're gonna have to set that up for sure. So I will show you guys how we do that. Hi, little Miss Helper. Ready to help? Now maybe you'd have this GPS set up already, or base station. No? Okay. Tied in. Good. What these things cost. This open, and we get the radio antenna out, and it goes on first. The globe goes on. Excuse me. Go. I'm gonna find the cables here. This cable goes to the globe, and it just hooks up right back here. Maybe. The radio antenna. Seems like the go. We usually run a battery on ours. Some people hook the pickup up to it, but I need my pickup closer to what we're using, so for the tools. So since we've already been set up on this farm, all we have to do is hook it up and it's already got its position, so we should be good to go. We should fire up and be ready to go here in a little while. No satellites yet, but should start finding them. There it is. Charger's disabled due to the cold, but it will warm up, and we'll get started. And that unit is what it does is it gives us the accuracy for the grade control through the satellite GPS part of it. As far as the where we drive, the GPS that's in the trencher alone will plot that. But as far as the grade control, that's what this base unit's for, is to control that to an accuracy, you know, that will work for what we're needing to do. So that's what that unit's for. There's a globe on the trencher also. And like it, you know, runs off the RTK stuff, and the other units, like I say, the grade control unit is for the accuracy of the depth and grade of the tile. So I guess, like I say, I'm not a total expert on that, but it does work really good. So anyway, I am going to bring you guys back in when we get the trencher over there and get ready to do some trenching. So hey guys, we're moving this over to where we're going to be setting in over here and putting in the tile. Kind of wanted to go over a little bit of the GPS stuff. On here, hopefully that comes up in a little bit. But anyway, the unit that's in the trencher has its own globe. That's why it isn't getting signal. I put that down so that if we had a storm or something, lightning, it wasn't quite as prone to hopefully be a lightning rod anyway. But anyway, the unit that's here in the trencher, it actually has its own globe. You can see it out there. And that actually will run the GPS as far as marking tile out. It will not control the depth or the grade of the machine. So that's what the base station, like I say, I was talking about earlier, is for, is controlling the depth of the machine. And the machine will do this all on its own when I set it up into automatic mode. As far as the depth, we did not get the steering part of this. In a way, I kind of wish we would have, but at the time it was extra money, so we did opt to go ahead and do that at the time. Sorry guys, I'm going to shift down here. There we go. Go down the road a little bit faster here. And we just got to go a quarter mile or so down the road, not even quite that far. Base station is over here on the hill, over there by the pickup. and we can usually get, and it's basically, it has to be able to reach, it's a radio frequency, so there's an antenna up on top of the cab, and there's that antenna that we set up on the GPS base station. They actually communicate these two systems in the trencher and in the base station. That's how that gets its reference, is through radio control. So and this unit, I absolutely love it. I mean, it's been a great unit for us. Relatively simple to run. You know, keeps track of how much footage you put in, you know, your grade, depth, size of tile. I mean, you have to input the size of tile, and as far as that goes, you can actually, you know, select minimum grades. Like I say, I'll go through some of that with you as we get into putting in some of this tile over here. So these trenchers are kind of hard to see on the other side of them. There's the pond we'll be dumping this into. And on this, whenever we go to a farm, or say a different field even, and change, say the base station, we actually have to go in and benchmark and get a point of reference when we get to that field, so that, you know, so that the unit knows where it's referencing from. And you got to try to do that, you know, kind of do it the same every time, so that you're getting the same results. So, and on here, since we're in here, you can tell that there's, you know, here was a line that we didn't run. We were going to, but we had actually backed the track, and I don't remember, I think the shaft on this, it ended up breaking on us, so we didn't actually run that tile. So we're going to do something different now. We're going to run an intake tile, and instead of coming around this hill, we're going to come up along this and put an intake in up here, where I don't see any wet on this side so much as on that side. So we're gonna run this one, you know, up into here. So we'll get out and figure out if we can figure out where we're gonna put the intake. And on the intake markings on a non-government deal, we usually try to roughly go 150 feet, 120 to 150 feet from the top of the hill. So here's roughly going to be 120 feet and looking at the kind of the way that he planted it with his bean planter. I assume it's going to be the similar way he's going to do with his corn planter. Here's a division row right here. You can tell it's wider from here to here, and then from here to here on here. So I'm assuming he's using the same planter. We're probably going to put the intake right here in this lowest spot, and that's relative because we're going to bury the intake just a little bit, so we will gain probably 6-8 inches or more of fall. But basically where Joe's digging in down there, by the way, that's co-owner of the construction side of this company. I'm the other co-owner. My son and daughter and wife actually do help us some. My wife and daughter have day jobs, but they do help us a lot in this business and with the farming. My daughter's got some cows of her own with our cows, so that's kind of where we're at on that. I will back down there recording how the track that I want to run the tile, and then that gives me the information. By doing that, that's telling the unit in here all the grade information that it needs to know that's actually here, the terrain that actually exists, and it run, a track down on. So when we go to digging, that's what it's basing everything off of when we're trenching the line in. So like I say, I will get this lined up. I might be able to do this. Okay, we're gonna have to shift this unit back into the digging gear, which is this Hydromax here. It has a 2-speed transmission, and then it has electrical toggle switches that you can select 2 more gears each on it. So the digging gear, when we go to digging, everything is in low on that. It's a hydrostatic type transmission, it's hydrostatic power, but there are gear reductions, which is what all of this stuff is. And then the hydrostat part's controlled by this part. But when you go to digging, you always want to dig on the lowest setting, so because it does pull pretty hard. And if a hydrostat, would just build heat, the harder you pulled it, and the higher settings. So, and on here on the GPS unit now, you can see that that line that we were going to run would have been right. We've been crossing it right now. This line that we ran up over here is just right. It ended right over here. That's nice. Like I say, we go back to a farm, and we know exactly where everything is that we put in. We don't get that information from the other tile guys, so that's why I kind of say when we like to do the same Work with the same people over and over again a lot for this reason. So, and on this, we always run our mast level at the top there. Cylinder's completely retracted, and that way we're trying to do it the same every time, so it's fairly accurate. And the flag for the intake is right there. See it? Is what I'm going to do now is I'm going to record this section, and it's going to ask me if I've got basically if I've got it to the point that it's the same, you know, the masts and the cylinders are retracted. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and then I'm going to back this track down here. And this track is relative. You wouldn't have to be exactly on this track, but you would want to be fairly close. If there's any differentiating characteristics in, you know, on the ground, you would definitely want to be pretty close to your, you know, your track that you backed. Because if, you know, say you was over here and there was a 2-foot hump over here, you wouldn't want to be over there, because, you know, it's not gonna, it won't have recorded that hump the first time that you back the track. So, you know, if you're gonna have to do something weird like that, say go over a small terrace or something like that, you know, you want to make sure that you know, record that and kind of go pretty darn close to where you're anticipating to go at actual go. So, and we're just gonna back down here fairly close. We don't have to be all the way down there for it. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the recording button again, and that turns it off. The simple fact, sometimes if you forget, you pull ahead, you back up, and then your track's like, you know, it ends up kind of messing it. So you either gotta kind of start over or cut off that part of the track. So, but he's got what we need done. Go ahead and back this puppy up here. Will actually tip up so it's straight, and it's got an auto feature for that too, but I usually run it manually. Sometimes me and it disagree on when it wants to tip it. I try to use it to tip the wheel so the wheel stays fairly straight up and down. I turn the conveyor on, turn the digging wheel on, lower the digging wheel down into the backhoe trench. And we've also got a gauge up here too. They'll tell us fairly close to level. When it's right at the green, there's still some grade. Even actually a couple bubbles below is actually grade according to the GPS. So we always try to get it as close as we can, level wise, when we start out. A little bit of grade, but not a lot. So I'm going to shift it down into the lower parts, turn that down. I'll go through what that dial is for on a Hydromax anyway. Pull ahead a little bit here so that we got, that's probably far enough. The digger's where it needs to be. Now to get this is 23, section 23 green mark right there, line, that's going to be the tile line that we are going to install. So right now, if we measure the outlet, right now depth-wise, we're going to come pretty darn close to our minimum depth, 50 foot into this, which our minimum depth right now is 4.3 feet, which is plenty deep enough for what we're doing starting out here. We may end up, I can increase that, let's say, let's just go say 4.5, so 4.5 feet or minimum. I usually go like 0.5% on something that we have decent slopes for. Maximum depth, we're going to go, can go up to 6.8 feet that I have set for. Optimum depth, so what it's going to put this in at typically with, of course you get your up and downs and it corrects for that. So not always is it going to be that. So we're going to install, we're installing a 5-inch main. And then we're going to set that offset. There's a height offset that I can adjust as I'm going. If I want more depth on up somewhere, I can actually adjust the offset to either go up or down. So right now we're going to leave it at 0. Turn on the automatic control. We're going to pull it ahead. And from now on, unless I lose GPS signal, this will be automatically depth controlled to the specs that I inputted into that screen, into that design screen. So I'm going to pull ahead far enough that we can get an outlet put on this. Probably about in here somewhere, I'm hoping. We will turn the digging wheel off. We will turn the conveyor off. Until my helper to stay in the cab. Adding on. And that's what we're going to do is we're going to run the tile down through the boot on this machine, and it'll hook into an outlet out into the pond here, and then we'll continue on up the hill. We got the outlet in. We're going to go ahead and pull forward and expand our blinders, tile blinders, to put dirt over the tile line. I'm going to start the conveyor again, start the wheel, accelerate. And this is already correcting. And I'm going to ease forward. Blinders out, which will put dirt, like a few inches of dirt on top of the tile line as we go. We can hydraulically expand those right here in the cab and retract them if we hit a tile line. We usually retract them so it's easier to find. Raise the tile arm up here so I can see it. And you usually want a guy, because you always want a little bit of tile here so that it's not pulling it, stretching it, so you have a guy hold tile. And plus we're gonna go ahead and roll the dirt out of the conveyor uphill. It's so much easier to push the backfill back down, since we just push it in with either the backhoe or a skid steer. And if you push it in slow, it doesn't usually bother the tile. It's when you're backing up and you hit that dirt pile and you're trying to throw it basically in the trench that it'll cause you issues on, egg shaping that tile or flattening it. And he ran it up to the flag. So now we can continue on up the hill. Surprised my helper hasn't already started. I'll take you back and show you guys the blinder, what the blinders are doing. See, they're pulling dirt back in over this tile line. And it's coming down through the boot, and it has a weight bar on it, so it keeps it pushed down into the V of the trench. There's a V on the bottom of the boot, so it places the tile really nice. So, and if you put enough dirt over the top of the tile, when you go to backfill it, it usually doesn't hurt it any. So okay, back to it. I'm gonna go ahead and start the conveyor. Go ahead and start the digging wheel. Accelerate, and I'm going to start easing forward. And I'm going to keep easing forward until I reach the hydraulic limit to where it switches over to this set point adjustment. And right now we've got it set pretty low. A lot of people run them wide open. I usually run it a little over half, and that just basically dictates how hard and how fast this machine's pulling. So like I say, I like to run it a little over half. We rarely run it over that. Sometimes we have to in certain conditions. I'm going to slow this conveyor down. The dirt don't need to be that far away from the trench. Don't need to turn any more than it absolutely has to, but you also don't want to plug it up, because then the wheel plugs up too. So you can kind of watch the dirt there. If you cut a tile line, you'll see the plastic in it. You're bringing it out and it's all mixing. So there's clay, there's black, there's residue, there's all kinds of things in that, which allows that water, when you put it back in the trench, that will allow that water to percolate down to the tile line. So, and right now I'm running the line. You can see up here I'm 1.8 feet off of what I had originally drove, which is not a big deal.
much, or if you can't slow it down and make it so it's not pulling so hard, it's all a ratio, because it pulls, and if you're trying to go forward faster than what it will dig through the ground, it causes it to spin, and like I say, they always head downhill. So tile machine, you don't want that. You're always placing it in low, bringing it up. You always want grade, which the GPS corrects for that stuff. But if you get off the line too far, you're in a real mess. You basically about got to start over. So we're on the track right up through here. We're down to 1.2 feet from the track is all. So far we've ran 151 feet, 14 minutes, which is being out of the machine and getting the outlet installed. So running the whole whopping 0.29 once in a while. Like I say, the ground is, we hit hard spots and you can feel it. The machine slows and goes, and on average looks like about 0.25 mile an hour. So not very fast. I did set it back a little bit. We were spinning earlier. And we do have a diff lock, but on the diff lock on these machines, if there's a downhill and you're in the diff lock, as soon as it starts spinning, it's going downhill. If you're not locked in, it allows one tire to kind of hold as a foothold, so the other tire will spin, so you kind of know before it's trying to shift you sideways downhill. So like I say, a lesson learned. Diff lock sounds good in theory, and it is useful in some situations, but like I say, something like that, if you're running around a side hill, you really want to be careful with a diff lock. Really want to be paying attention. And on the screen now, we can see the existing tile line that we put in. This one I think we put in 2 years ago. And this one's going to come up here to it, close to it. And this one here was a seep tile line. This one here is going to be this, so it was 4-inch. This one here is going to be a 5-inch line. There is a 5-inch. That's what we're installing. Right now, saying we're running a boot depth of 5.5 feet, which is plenty deep enough for 5-inch. We usually, when I get up here within where we will be borrowing dirt from, I usually basically make the trench deeper, not by much, but we try to account for some of the borrow on the backside, because we've been to places where the terraces got built and we've had to go fix tile lines, and it's like, what's going on here? And you dig down, and then your first swipe with the backhoe, you cut the tile and it's flatter than a pancake, and you can see the guy that built the terraces, you can see his track marks on the tile line. Granted, either the tile guy didn't put it in really deep enough, or they called for a lot more dirt in the terrace than what there should have been, which I think sometimes the terraces can be too big. I mean, a terrace, some of those terraces were fairly good size, but also some of the tile, I don't think some of it gets put in, I mean, at least 4 foot it needs to be put in, and I think 5 foot's just a better all-around number. Depends how you're mixing the dirt, that water will seep down to that tile line. Now, tile fixing that. So and we're getting up here at about getting pretty close to the end of the line. Joe's gonna move the flag over so that we're not running right over it and don't know where it's at. Level back up here. And I'm getting up to a point now that I won't be borrowing the dirt from here. This will actually be under the terrace. So and we're running at a depth of 6 foot right now, so I think we're gonna go ahead and bring that up because that's well over the depth of what we want that intake to be put in. We'll get it back up to push it closer to the 5.5 feet here. Right now we put in 286 feet of tile. Stop. We're gonna go ahead and turn the GPS off and actually start bringing this out of the ground. By the time the boot gets to, where the flag is, it's gonna be probably around the 5.5 foot, 5 to 5.5 foot. So let's get into a little higher gear here. Always want to put your offsets back to 0, otherwise it affects when you put it in auto mode. It will affect the depth when you go to do your next line if you forget. Right now we will record 288 feet of tile installed because we had tile that we added to get the outlet out where we were, and then the outlet install. So, but that's how we do our tile lengths. We had a guy that actually went back and measured every tile line that we did, and what we charged and what he measured, we were actually doing a little less on every line, which is fine with me. If you got guys that are going to go back and measure it, you definitely kind of want to be on that underside typically. I mean, we weren't a lot, and it would add up, but it also takes time to go back and hand measure every one. So that's kind of where we went to on this. It saves us some time. So that's how we do that. And more on the GPS, like if we wanted to go into, say, a different angle of looking how you're going, with the tile line. So say you wanted a more like you're in the tractor looking out the cab, you can see all these tile lines that we've installed over here. Kind of zoom out, and we put a lot of tile on this farm.
shows you that, you know, that tile line if you wanted to stay in a screen to where you could see reference the depths and make sure you weren't going out of those lines, which usually the GPS now if you lose GPS signal, there's a good possibility that, you know, you want to keep track of that. So anyway, guys, I will get back with you when we do some more stuff here.